Good evening. Welcome to Northbeat. I'm Megan Roberts. Yellowknife's new city manager has resigned. John Collin was on the job for just 2 weeks. His last day is May 13th. April Hudson has the details.
Any discussion? Seeing none, accept a big welcome.
That welcome just 2 weeks ago has turned into a farewell. Council officially appointed Collin to his new role on April 8th. Now they're on the search again to fill the city's top job. He was in Yellowknife long enough for one council meeting and a couple of committee meetings. The city says he resigned for personal reasons, and that's all we know. They aren't sharing any more information. Collin was supposed to be an expert in preparing for emergencies. He spent decades in the armed forces. He led the administration of St. John, New Brunswick for 4 years. When he was hired, Mayor Rebecca Alty said he'd be a, quote, huge asset. Today, she says his departure wasn't expected, and council's still figuring out their next steps. As summer looms, along with another high-risk fire season, they plan to appoint an interim city manager in the meantime. April Hudson, CBC News, Yellowknife.
As you just heard from April, it's looking like another high-risk wildfire season for the Northwest Territories, and some communities are already preparing. Fort Smith introduced a partial fire ban effective today, and Hay River hosted a public meeting last night to talk about mitigation and how people can protect themselves. NWT MLA and Speaker Shane Thompson is well versed on wildfire risks and preparation. He had a central role in last year's wildfire season as Minister of Environment and Municipal and Community Affairs. And this year, he's keeping a close eye on his riding of Nahende.
So I guess my biggest concern is I've walked in the woods on Sunday. Me and my wife go for walks with our dogs all the time, but on Sunday we went to go pick up some kindling for the backyard fires. And it's drier than it was last year. So that's number one. Number two, the water levels across Canada is low. Like we got the lowest, I think I saw the last ECC's report on water. It's low. It's really low. You look in BC where some of the water comes from. People are walking across rivers and stuff like that. So that there concerns me. It's dry. We have lots of old growth. We noticed from last year, fires that occurred may not stop fires now. It may still, we're burning higher or hotter, less moisture. And we're getting hotter seasons, when fires are burning and they don't react the same way as they used to. So those are concerns that resonate with me. Those, if you want to, as a grandfather, as a parent, as a friend, those are the things that resonate with me, regardless of being a politician. Those are the things. What residents are talking about, they're very diligent. They're talking about fire smarting, how they can, improve their communities, their own house, their yard. What are some of the things you can do? They're very active in public meetings, so they're going out there. I've seen communities give, plans on what they're going to do. I just looked at one on Friday. As I came home on Thursday and went on Friday, there was this thing sitting on my table, and I read it, and it was from the village, and it talked about what they were going to do. So each community has these plans in the riding. But the thing is that are we prepared for the unexpected?
Thompson says he's comfortable that each community is doing a good job ahead of this year's wildfire season, but he says it's impossible to predict Mother Nature. A Yellowknife neighborhood experiencing regular water main breaks might be getting some relief soon. We first reported on the street located between Old Town and Niven last night. It had 7 breaks since February. That's caused deteriorating road conditions. The city says it has underground video that shows the water main itself isn't the issue. It's what's connected to the water main that's causing the problems, like private pipes or fittings. The city says it'll replace those pipes and fittings in hopes of preventing future breaks. Construction has started on the former Belanca building in downtown Yellowknife. The renovation will see the former office building converted into a 72-unit apartment building. Developers say everything is going to plan, but there are still a few things that need to be worked out. Robert Holden reports.
If you've driven through downtown Yellowknife the last couple weeks, you may have seen the former Belanca building, missing windows and siding. Look a little closer and you'll see it's gutted inside as construction begins on the Nest apartments. Developer Afzal Suri says construction began April 1st, and they're moving quickly.
We do have a bit of an aggressive schedule that we're working with, just because our construction season is fairly short, and we want to complete it within this year.
Suri says they're hoping for a late December, early January opening. Several units will be classified as affordable housing. His company, Borealis Development Inc., will decide how many at a later date. With not much space in the back or the existing parking lot, the question for most people is, where's everyone going to park? Aislinn Sterling Crosby owns Overlander Sports across the street. She says they're excited for the project, but worried about the parking issue.
We do definitely have some concerns about it leading to more parking issues than we already have. You know, our lot is already being abused by a lot of people who are going elsewhere in the downtown core, but they want the free parking that they think our lot provides.
Suri hopes nearby commodities will take care of these issues.
Everything's 5 minutes away. Grocery store's 5 minutes away. Your parks are less than 5 minutes away for a walk. So everything's fairly close by. We are also adding a car share program with our building, which would be exclusively used for the tenants.
Suri revealed costs for the project have risen slightly, but they're still operating very much within their means. Robert Holden, CBC News, Yellowknife.
A section of highway in the Yukon is getting a facelift thanks to funding from Alaska and the U.S. federal government. Gabrielle Plonka has that story.
The government of Alaska is contributing $42 million to upgrade the Alaska Highway over 3 years. The upgrades will happen on the Yukon side of the highway between the Alaska border and Destruction Bay. That section of the highway is so bad, the Yukon's Department of Highways says it's a roller coaster-like road with cracks, potholes, and frequent gravel sections. At an announcement made today, Highways Minister Nils Clark said maintaining the highway used to be a shared responsibility.
Following the depletion of funds from the Shakwak Agreement in 2015, the Yukon has assumed sole responsibility for maintaining the corridor. The effects of climate change and permafrost thaw have made the need for significant additional funding for this roadway evident in recent years.
Highway work will begin next year. It'll include repairing the road beneath the surface, and Clark says some of the highway will have to be rebuilt entirely. Gabrielle Plonka, CBC News, Whitehorse.
A new wind farm could be coming to a mine in the Kitikmeot. The Nunavut Impact Review Board is recommending the project move forward, but some residents of the area say they're worried about how it could impact wildlife. Natalie Pressman explains.
It's called the Back River Energy Center, and if approved, it would add 13 wind turbines, a solar array, and an energy storage system to a B2 gold mine. That mine is located about 400 kilometers from Cambridge Bay. The proposed system would reduce the mine's fuel use by about 50%, according to a report from the review board. But during the community consultations, residents said they were worried about caribou hearing vibrations from the wind turbines and avoiding the area, and that birds might collide with the turbines or try to build nests in them. The report says noise from the wind towers would be the same volume as someone whispering, and that the towers will be turned off during peak bird migration and when caribou are nearby. B2 Gold declined an interview. The review board recommended the project earlier this month. The federal minister of Northern Affairs now has until October to accept or reject the proposal, but he's expected to give his decision over the summer. Natalie Pressman, CBC News, Iqaluit.
The 2024 Nunavut Mining Symposium is officially underway this week. The annual event brings together industry experts and stakeholders from across Canada. Updates on mining projects in Nunavut and the economic impact of mining are some of the topics being discussed. The president of the symposium says the event brings up to $750,000 into the city. He also says it's all about building connections and learning.
Well, I mean, mining is a key component of the Nunavut economy. It's outside of government. Mining becomes the largest employer of Nunavummiut. So having the opportunity to bring professionals together to talk about mining, to explore new ideas and new innovations, to understand what's happening amongst the entire mineral industry, it's critical.
The symposium will run until Thursday evening this week. The Yukon Quest could follow a different trail next year. Organizers have recently contacted the town of Faro about possibly running the race through the community. The mayor of Faro says talks have only just started, but he's excited about the potential boost to local tourism. It's estimated the race could bring 200 tourists to the town. CBC asked Yukon Quest officials for an interview. They say they're still consulting stakeholders before making any announcements. And youth in Inuvik are learning how to drive dog teams. All the fun is happening at East 3 Secondary School, and the CBC's Des Loreen raced on over to check it all out.
Stress.
Yeah,
stress. It's scary.
I'm more so worried because the dogs are basically just like cars that can move on their own, and it's a bit stressful.
Can do whatever they want.
Okay. Whoa, dog. Whoa. Whoa. Okay.
The thrill of racing with the dog team. Leadership skills as well as team building are lessons being taught to Inuvik students this month.
I think it's an easier way to get kids on the land, get them interested into their culture, learn some language skills, gain some confidence.
So sometimes you can only get one paw or a couple little nails, and that's okay.
The students also learned how to care for the team.
I like the thought of like being able to take care of the dogs and like being able to run my own team at some point, which would be really nice. So I get to learn that today, and it's really fun.
The tour guide who shared his knowledge is happy to see the culture being taught in school.
So yeah, it's been an incredibly rewarding experience, and the students have done really, really well, and we're just very happy that it got to happen.
The school administration plans to keep bringing in more traditional activities.
The vast majority of our students, I think 90%, are Indigenous, and having them be able to see themselves within our school environment and the lessons and the programming that we're offer allows them to help build up their confidence in their own strength and their identity.
The dog sledding will wrap up at the end of this week. Des Loreen, CBC News, Inuvik.
Amalokok biu yamu tinga diwaling mulu pangolo asyang miu muna toy mu ina daily takpa kemuk sa palilok sa mo tay ma buat taling ni pilariyo lak sa inyo amichwalu walang mata.
I'm such a fan of this show.
Listen to the podcast, Q with Tom Power.
The story itself is so unbelievable.
The industry wasn't set up for me to thrive in.
The presence I feel now is not something that I believed to be possible in the past.
So many people thought I couldn't do it. They doubted me.
I felt like I ripped my whole heart out.
I didn't realize how formative 25 to 30 would be.
I have to kind of repress my own self-doubt.
You're one of my favorite interviewers. I was pumped.
Get out of here.
Q with Tom Power. Available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
I will not forgive failure. God has chosen us as a new broom to sweep the Vatican clean of corruption.
What would you like to do with your life?
I'd like to be an international star.
Are you a hug?
You're crying.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Well, God will take his revenge then.
Yes, he will. With our help.
What does it take to reach the top? Join me, Ian Hannamansing, as I get to know some truly inspirational people who share the secrets of their success.
If you want to talk about one moment, it's a moment where I would live or die.
It changed everything on CBC News Explore.
Moments that are so on trend right now. Ticket pricing, artificial intelligence, being a Swiftie, wild fashion trends, showbiz, and cancel culture. Join me, Alameen Abdul Mahmood, for Commotion, available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
Sipping on a bit of Henny, can I get a little Remy? Feeling heavy, chilling but I'm feeling ready. Pulled up in a big old Chevy.
A Nunavut man accused of murder appeared in Nunavut's Court of Justice today. Danny Paul Ietuk was charged after his wife, Annie Tracy Ukaituk, was found dead in their Sanakilak home. A lawyer explained to Ietuk that he will meet with him at the correctional facility and help him with retaining legal aid. Ietuk is charged with first-degree murder. He's scheduled to appear in court on May 7th again. The body of a Rankin Inlet man has been found hundreds of kilometers away near Baker Lake. Jason Panika was reported missing on Friday, April 19th. Search and rescue crews started looking for him in an area 127 kilometers south of the community where his snowmobile was found without any fuel. The search area then moved east. His body was found yesterday afternoon. It's believed he died from exposure to the cold. A former priest accused of sexual crimes was granted bail today. Eric DeJager was previously convicted of dozens of sexual crimes against children. He faces 8 new charges. A publication ban prevents CBC from providing reasons for why he was granted bail. One of the conditions of DeJager's bail is that he must leave Nunavut except when he is required to be in the courtroom. DeJager's next court date is on June 10th. That is to confirm the date of his trial. Ottawa police are investigating possible hate speech at a pro-Palestinian rally that was held on the weekend. Complaints were filed when video of the event revealed some demonstrators praising the deadly Hamas attack on October 7th. Kate McKenna has the details.
At a protest calling for a ceasefire, words that caused shock and widespread condemnation.
Long live October 7th! Long live the resistance!
Cheers of support for statements glorifying the October 7th attacks, when, according to Israel, Hamas killed nearly 1,200 people in southern Israel and about 250 people were taken hostage.
I was shocked, and it takes a lot to shock me at this point because, unfortunately, I've been shocked so many times about incidents taking place here in Canada since October 7th that, I didn't even know that there was still shock left in me.
All party leaders condemned the comments, including Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who posted on social media saying, "There is a difference between peaceful protest and hateful intimidation. It is unconscionable to glorify the anti-Semitic violence and murder perpetrated by Hamas on October 7th. This rhetoric has no place in Canada. None." Ottawa police say they're working with the Crown to see if charges can be laid.
If there is hate crime that is said, it is not something that we tolerate, and we will fully investigate any hate crime. Sometimes, though, it is very obvious that it's a hate crime. Other times, it is difficult to hear specifically, and the words matter. Specific words do matter, and sometimes it is difficult to fully understand what they've said.
But experts say the bar is very high for prosecutors to allege that speech crosses the threshold into hate speech.
Some of these hallmarks include things like describing the members of the group as animalistic or subhuman, or as preying on children, or as inherently violent in character. I think that gives you some sense of how extreme the speech must be.
Whether or not charges are laid, members of Canada's Jewish community say anti-Semitism is on the rise, and the comments made at last weekend's protest mark an escalation in an already difficult time. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
A growing number of volatile school protests against the Israel-Hamas war have spread across the United States. Colleges and even high schools are desperately trying to balance free speech with the safety of their students and the public. Cameron McIntosh reports.
At New York University, police moved in overnight, arresting more than 100 pro-Palestinian demonstrators. amid calls for intifada, an uprising against occupation, and anti-police chants. One of several campus demonstrations spreading across the U.S.
Free, free, free Palestine!
In support of a larger demonstration at New York's Columbia University, where demonstrators insist they're protesting their school's financial and academic ties to the Israeli government.
We're fighting for the lives of people. We're fighting against the complicity of our own university.
Last week, about 100 Columbia demonstrators were arrested. Jewish faculty and students are complaining about intimidation and threats.
They've just decided it's their mission to come here and generally harass Jewish students.
Trying to balance calls for free speech and safety, Columbia's president is being roundly criticized on all sides. Meanwhile, protests have spread to other campuses, including Yale, which also saw arrests, Michigan, Berkeley, and California State Polytech. It's making a lot of politicians, Democrat and Republican, nervous. The president calling for cooler heads.
I condemn the anti-Semitic protests. I also condemn those who don't understand what's going on with the Palestinians.
For many schools, including Columbia, this week marks the end of the semester, and hope the debate, demonstrations, and division move on to somewhere else. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Thousands of delegates and observers from hundreds of countries are in Ottawa. They're working on a historic UN treaty to curb global plastic waste with the goal of ending plastic pollution by 2040. Susan Ormiston has the latest.
Hopes for a global treaty to begin the end of plastic pollution, with protesters telling negotiators that ending it means cutting production of plastic as a giant tap spews out garbage, a symbol of the growing crisis. Talks in Ottawa this week will try to negotiate a binding treaty. The deadline is the end of this year, long overdue.
The world is counting on us to deliver a new treaty needed to deliver a future free of plastic pollution. Let's not fail them.
Plastic pollution is expected to triple in decades. Talks will focus on ridding the world of single-use plastics, redesigning for reuse. Recycling has failed to scale the mountains of plastic garbage. Only 9% ever recycled worldwide. Greenpeace wants production cuts.
We know that we are far behind where we should be, and this is thanks primarily to a small minority of blocker countries working on behalf of the fossil fuel and petrochemical industry to derail negotiations through endless debates about procedure.
As host, Canada's Environment and Climate Change Minister Stephen Guilbeault says he's navigating around red lines.
The idea is not to say we'll ban the use of plastics, but we ban those that can't be recycled or that are very harmful, and that those that we continue using, we keep in the economy and out of the environment and out of the human bodies.
Negotiations here aren't the last. If they succeed, the final round goes to South Korea. The hope is by the end of this year, countries worldwide will sign on to binding regulations, a first attempt to turn back the tide of plastic waste. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Ottawa.
Artificial intelligence will play a key role in the upcoming Olympics in Paris. Organizers recently shared their new guidelines for the technology. Sam Sampson has that story.
Imagine an instant replay of an Olympic dive looking like this. In-the-moment metrics of distance, degree, rotation. That's what's coming for Paris 2024. The International Olympic Committee rolled out an artificial intelligence plan for the Games, including judging tools.
AI will, of course, help to provide additional information to judges to score in a more informed way. Now, this all has to be done in a way to protect the integrity of the athletes' results.
Crucial. So important for him to nail this one.
Some athletes believe AI could eliminate judging errors or biases, like Kyle Schufelt. The Canadian won gold in 2004 on the floor and almost won bronze in the vault. But in a controversial decision, a judge gave an opponent who fell a higher score.
If AI would have been used in 2004, in the vault competition, I think I would have won a bronze medal.
Schufelt says AI will add fairness, but there still has to be some heart.
I would be scared if at a competition a bunch of like R2D2s beep, 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 come rolling into the competition and those are your judges. I wouldn't trust that. But when you have a combination of humans and the robotics and the technology, I think that that is like a really nice balance.
Ahead of the upcoming Youth Olympics, the IOC used AI to find new talent, future Olympians. It's a seed of encouragement possibly needed in modern times.
With social media now and the way kids operate, if they don't have some sort of instant knowledge, they move on really quickly. If AI helps them to acknowledge that their talent does exist, I think it's hugely beneficial.
While the IOC highlighted the potential benefits of AI, they were clear.
He's got the gold medal!
Artificial intelligence isn't meant to replace athletes.
Gold for Canada!
The humanity of the games will remain untouched.
And she can't see it, now she can!
Sam Sampson, CBC News, Regina.
And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good night.
What happens when we transform the country into one massive obstacle course? 20 total strangers are about to find out.
Okay, game on!
Relationships will be forged and crushed.
I want to rip their heads up.
In an all-out battle for glory.
Oh my God! I'm glad that there's cameras around. Yeah, me too. Do it in, replay.
Only one thing's for sure. They are not ready for what's coming.
Let's go, baby!
So good.
Please be careful.
I'm excited, dude. Me too. We're back with Crime Scene Kitchen. It's a bold choice.
Yes, honey.
It's a very straightforward recipe. This is going to be an absolute showstopper. That's what I'm talking about right there.
Woo!
Yeah. I murdered a donut.
That's a crime scene.
Hello.
Dad is the master of marketing.
So handsome, both of them. How big is my face? Bigger.
Dad's a superstar wherever he goes. 2, 1.
Go back to
Daddy marketing works.
Her particular skill set can be helpful to us.
She's a con artist. I need to get off that boat and back to being a full-time detective, and you need to stay out of prison. The best way we do that is to keep our heads down and do as we're told.
It makes sense that they get a larger share, or does it?
Welcome to the Greenbelt.
All of this, just single detached homes?
Yes.
What do we know? I think we can explain.
About That with Andrew Chang. Watch free on CBC Gem.
Sipping on a bit of Henny. Can I get a little Remy? Feeling heavy. Chilling, but I'm feeling ready. Pulled Pulled up in a big old Chevy. Dance floor stops and Miguel them drops. Queen with the locks and the crown on top. Feed in a box, never sound on pots. If it ain't the Henny, give me crown on rocks.